Good evening, everybody. This is John Scarborough right here in our yard. I wanted to show y'all something. We've got these ducks out here. I was gonna wait for a while to make a good video on this, and I probably still will come out and make another video. But I just saw them out here and I wanted to do a little bit of just a pretty good video for y'all. These ducks, if you look, I don't know if you can tell, they're back there in the back as well. There's another group. We got these ducks a while back ago. We raised them from babies. Got a few videos on them, and we put them around the pond. If you haven't seen that video, put it in. Go check it out. As soon as they were old enough to be on pasture, we put them out on the pond, and we let them kind of do their own thing. We fed them a little bit here and there. This is what we did here. We put a little strip of feed out right there, but this time they passed it up. They didn't even want it. They haven't had feed in 3 weeks, and they passed that feed up. And I picked up one of those ducks out there, and the breast on that duck is pretty good considering there's no feed. They're foraging everything for themselves. So I find that pretty impressive. I am pretty impressed so far. But we put them around the pond and made sure they couldn't get out for a while. Let them be around there long enough just to get used to being away from us. And then we took up the netting and let them kind of have free range of the whole place. And now they'll come up to the yard here and there, like you see them. They came up to this little strip. This is a strip of grass that we left. We had the water hose running through the yard here, and we left this strip so that we could water the chickens out in the pasture there. We left the strip because the grass growing up around there keeps the hose cool. Otherwise, when you water your chickens, the water would just be scalding hot. Right now we've had days and days and days of extreme heat, and so just keeping that hose covered helps a lot. But these ducks are very impressive so far, guys. This experiment that I've had, this is an ongoing experiment with ducks that I've had for quite a while. Y'all saw some old videos. If you haven't, go back and look at them. But there's some old videos on Khaki Campbell ducks that we tried with this method, and it didn't work out. We ended up having to get rid of the Khaki Campbells. Khaki Campbells are great for egg production, but they weren't good for the experiment that we were doing. So we sold them, and we figured we could, get some more other ways. Not a big deal. But these ducks right here are doing very well. I'm very surprised. And so we're just going to kind of keep this experiment going as long as we can. What we're hoping to find, if y'all haven't been keeping up with the experiment, we're hoping to find a set of ducks, or a set of poultry actually, that can take care of themselves mostly. They don't have to do it completely, but something that can mostly take care of themselves on the farm, kind of free range and take care of themselves, because that's not something that you find a lot. People do free range birds and stuff like that, but if they really want to get any high yield, they really have to do some form of taking care of them. Now, I'm not saying that we won't have to entirely, but it has been very impressive. The reason these ducks actually came up in the yard today is because the cattle came through the pasture and actually ate a lot of the grass that they had been eating. And these ducks, they are very good hunters, but they're also great foragers. And one of the things that I find that they love is grass seed heads. And that is absolutely wonderful, because they will go through and re-tenderize all of your grass. So if your grass starts to get ahead of you, that's one of the biggest problems with cattle, is that you've got to either have enough cattle to keep the grass from coming to seed, or you've got to keep moving them fast enough, or it's just like always a constant battle. But by having these ducks, and we've also found it with sheep, they will go through and help to re-tenderize the grass. Now, we don't have nearly enough ducks for the amount of land, the amount of cattle we have, but for the experiment that we're doing here, this is working pretty good. Is it a foolproof plan? No, I don't think so. But to go with that regenerative agriculture scheme, I think it could be wonderful. But also just as a backup plan for anyone with a homestead that says, hey, you know, I want to have some kind of a backup plan in case the world goes south, in case things go bad. You know, I'm not a huge prepper. I'm not big on that, but I do believe in being as prepared as I can be, you know. And if I can have some of these ducks here, and I can do that, I can have a little bit of a backup plan while raising some meat. These things are taking care of themselves. These things are a lot like the cattle so far, but yet easier. Now, having the pond makes this all possible. If it wasn't for the pond near here, we're walking down here to the pond right now. We've got quite a few weeds in this spot here, but we're walking down in here to this pond. And that's the other thing. These weeds right here, the ducks are actually eating the seed heads off the weeds as well. And that's great because it retenderizes the perennial grasses, but it gets rid of the seed of the annual weeds. So annuals are plants that only come back from a new seed. The perennials can come back from the old root. So it's just all good. There's all good for that because you're completely getting rid of that. I want you to look at this right here. The cattle didn't do this. I know this because this was like this before the cattle came through here. The ducks are coming through here and knocking the seed heads off of there. And that is just absolutely wonderful what they're doing. I haven't seen a lot of activity on the goat weed. Goat weed, if you don't know nothing about it, goat weed is a truly invasive weed that is extremely difficult to get rid of. And it's kind of disappointing to see that the ducks didn't attack it, because if they did, I'd be in the duck business. But having this pond over here pretty close works out really, really good. This is a very healthy pond. We rarely let the cattle in. We only let them in on occasion, and that is just to knock the weeds off the bank. Other than that, we don't let the cattle in because we want to keep the pond healthy, and we want to keep the fish healthy. That pond is another source of food that we have here on this pond, and it's a deep pond. I don't believe in huge ponds on small acreage because you're taking up a lot of land. But I like deep ponds on a small acreage because you can have a lot of fish stacked on top of each other, basically stacks of fish, if you will, because you have depth to raise food on rather than volume of land. You know, that's something that's pretty great that I really think is something that a lot of people need to look at doing on their properties. Rather than having a 5-acre pond, have some smaller ponds. Or if you have a small piece of land, then have one small pond, but deep. Make it deep. And make sure you have enough catchment area, enough area to actually catch a lot of runoff. That's one good thing about this pond is, for one, it's spring fed, but number two, it actually has a lot of catchment area to catch the rain, the runoff as it comes through. So that helps you a lot in drought times like we have right now, like we've had for the last couple of years. Helps with the health of your pond. But I really appreciate having them ducks on here, and I really like the idea that we're able to raise more backup food. I really think a person could do quite well on small acreage with those Muscovy ducks and a small pond that's healthy with some food, and then some sheep. I think a person could do quite well with just those three things. I think that would be, I don't know that I would say it would be like enough to, you know, make a person thrive, but I would say if a person had the land, I think a person could do pretty well as far as providing enough food for themselves with the fish, the sheep, and the goat, and the Muscovy ducks. Just those three. You wouldn't even have to worry about the chickens so much. Chickens are great, but chickens need more feed. Chickens need to be taken care of more. And I think the real reason is sheep and Muscovy ducks are two animals that have not been changed a lot. They haven't been, they haven't been bred certain ways to produce certain things. I'm talking about hair sheep specifically. Now they have been to some degree, But they say that hair sheep are one of the most original animals that we have. And I think the same could be said for Muscovy ducks. Muscovy ducks is the only type of duck we have on the planet that we know of that's not bred to the mallard duck. So it's not a part of the mallard duck. Muscovy duck is a completely different type of duck on its own, and that gives it the ability to be more like the duck would have been when it was actually able to take care of itself. That's the thing about a lot of animals in our day and age, is they actually can't take care of themselves in the wild. So when you hear vegan communities and things like that talk about getting rid of, you know, release these animals in the wild or stop raising them, stop, you know, the problem with that, there's a bunch of problems with that, but one problem is many of those animals just couldn't take care of themselves. They've been bred so much to the point that there's no way they could take care of themselves. But also the ecosystem in the wild isn't the same either as it used to be. So that's just not something that's able to happen. We live in a different world now. And I believe that world's better for all of us. But anyway, guys, I'm going to sign off here pretty quick. I just wanted to let y'all spend the evening with me. It's actually cool enough to walk around outside. I've been spending a lot of time working in the shop here lately because it's so darn hot. Right now we've had between 100 and 103 degrees just off and on for quite some time, longer than I think I've ever seen. So anyway, guys, we'll sign off. Y'all don't forget, like and subscribe.